Hello everyone, welcome back. Here I am going to be talking a little bit about Magic again. Someone has asked me to talk about Magic constructed formats, and that's something I've been wanting to do for a little bit, so let's get started. Wizards of the Coast recognizes 6 constructed formats. They are Block, Standard, Modern, Commander, Vintage, and Legacy. Just go through them one at a time. But before I do that, each set has its own banned and restricted lists. I'm not gonna go into that now, but if you look at the description below, I will post the links so you can find those for yourself. So let's start off with the most specific format. That is the block format. Each set falls into a block. So, previously a block was always 3 sets. Going into this year, actually, blocks are always going to be 2 sets. And the block constructed format is what it sounds like. You can only use cards from that block. So, at the time of filming this, the current block that is out is Battle for Zendikar. So if you're playing with the Battle for Zendikar block format, you can only use Battle for Zendikar cards and Oath of the Gatewatch cards. Everything else is technically banned. Any card that was ever reprinted is legal in any set that is legal. For example, the card Dragon Fodder has been reprinted a couple times. And since it may have been from a much older set, it is legal in the Khans of Tarkir block format because it's in that block. Next up, we have the Standard format. Standard is what the current metagame kind of revolves around. So this is when you could only use cards from the last... Okay, actually in the current time, the metagame is actually shifting. Previously, not legal anymore, where it was the last 2 blocks and the core set that existed between the 2. However, they are changing the block format. As I said earlier, it's now going to be 2 instead of 3, and they're no longer having a core set. This means that Standard is going to be the last 3 blocks, as opposed to 2 blocks in a core set. So the current time, Standard is everything between Khans of Tarkir and Oath of the Gatewatch. However, soon, when Shadows of Innistrad comes out, Khans of Tarkir and Fate Reforged will cycle out. So, that is why this is what the metagame is based around. It's always just the newest cards, so it's a way that Wizards can control what the metagame is seeing. Like, if something's too overpowered, or instead of just banning it outright, like they would in Modern, or something like that, they cycle it, and they give like a strictly worse version of it. And if they make a strictly worse version, people just complain, so they find ways to do it. They do it well. Most of the time. Most of the time when people are talking about playing Magic, they will often refer to Standard. This is what like the professionals play, and it can be really fun, but you have to keep up with it. The next set is called Modern. Before Modern was... Actually, way before Modern was a thing. Cards used to look more like this. This with their layout, just kind of bland colors and yada yada yada. Then they shifted more to this current layout of the card. This is considered a modern card. So, modern refers to any set that has these cards. This layout. But not strictly any set. Just because a card is in this format does not mean it's modern legal. It must have been printed in a standard set. So basically, cards Mirrodin through the current set are all legal in Modern. So if a card is only printed in a dual deck, or Conspiracy, or a Commander deck, if it's reprinted from an older one but printed again with that new format, it does not count unless it was printed in one of those sets. Like, I actually have a card in my modern deck called Disenchant, which was never actually printed with the new format, but it was printed in Time Spiral, so it counts. Next up, we have the format known as Commander. Commander is a 100 card singleton deck. Singleton means you must have one of each card. You only have one of each card, except from the basic lands. So, in everything else, you can have up to 4 of a card. Commander, you only get 1. What makes Commander one step more than that is that, as I said before, it has to be exactly 100 cards. Everything else is a 60 card minimum. Commander, 100 cards. So you can see, bigger deck than my modern deck. And 1 card you're going to want to keep separate from all the others. This is your Commander. The Commander exists in a zone by itself. You can play it from that zone as if casting it from your hand. And so it's kind of nice to have that reliable way, 1 card that's reliably cast. The rules for constructing this is that it must be a legendary creature. Athreos is a legendary creature. And the colors that he form the color identity of your deck. For example, Athreos is a black and a white card, and there's no other mana symbols on him. Even if it's in the text box, it counts as part of his color identity. And so I can use, with this being a black and white commander, my deck can only have black and white cards. Even if there's a card that casts for solo only white, but has red in the card text, I can't use that. Its color identity is white and red. So, color identity is a big thing in this. And the singleton, it makes it a very nice, more casual format. So, like, in Commander, you start with more life. You can start with 30 or 40, depending on who you're playing with. I believe the legal Commander is actually 30 life. However, before it was Commander, it was called EDH. EDH stands for Elder Dragon Highlander. Right? Elder Dragon Highlander? Yeah, it stands for Elder Dragon Highlander, and it was a format made by the fans. And when it was adapted to be Commander, an official one that you can actually buy decks for at your local game store, it used 40 life. When they changed it, they changed it to 30 life. One more thing that you also have in Commander decks is something called Commander Damage. Something I don't really care for. In most of my house games, we just say, we just house rule it, no Commander Damage. But normally, if your Commander can deal 21 points of damage by itself over the course of the game, that's another way of winning. So, some people would like to have a commander that just gets really big, and the deck is all about dealing the most commander damage as possible. Either way, Commander is a great format. It's much more casual, and all sorts of things can happen. The next 2 sets take kind of a turn. Vintage and Legacy. Both sets allow for all cards to be played, alpha through the current. With the exception of some cards that are just too powerful and they have banned. So these 2 technically have the longest ban list, because they have the most cards that are in the sets. And here's going to be the difference. Legacy has just a long ban list. Vintage has a long ban list and a restricted list. The restricted list says these cards you're allowed to have, but because they're so powerful, you're only allowed to have 1. So, like, Vintage is the only format that allows things like Black Lotus, because they're just so powerful. The Power 9 cards. One thing that's gotta be important to know is that there's a huge difference between competitive vintage, and kitchen table vintage. For whenever someone says they have like a kitchen table magic deck, that means it's a very casual deck. It's made to be fun. As opposed to competitive, where it's made to win. So if you ever watch Loading Ready Run, James makes a kitchen table vintage deck. Because it's kitchen table, because using orcs from a large span of Magic's history. Then he win a game against Paul using a competitive vintage deck. And you can see it did not work out well. Because there's competitive vintage, which is just about using as all the cards to exploit the best combo. Those are the 6 main formats that people play and that are recognized by Wizards. There are a few other ones which I'm going to talk about in possibly future videos, such as tiny leaders and stuff of the like. In an upcoming video, I'm going to talk about limited formats. It's kind of, I personally prefer to limit it, even though I do enjoy my Modern and Commander decks. Either way, it's been nice talking to you guys. Leave a comment below with what your favorite format to play is. Are you more of a Commander person or a Standard player? Sure. Nothing's wrong with either, just personal preference. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.